My sister taught a paternity test to my son, but when she got pregnant, I did the same, and she ended up getting divorced. I'm furious right now. Sorry if I'm venting here. I'm 38 years old, married to my husband Ken, who is 37, and we've been married for 10 years. We have 2 kids, Dan, who is 4, and G, who is 2. My married life was peaceful until my sister, who is 34, decided to ruin everything. She always finds a way to make everything revolve around her. It's like she's a human black hole, absorbing everyone's attention. If she can't get the attention she needs, she'll do whatever it takes to get it, no matter the cost. Last week, it was my parents' 40th anniversary, and we all gathered to celebrate. To start, she showed up late. We all waited, but it was getting late. The guests were getting impatient, and my parents decided to start the celebration. When she arrived and saw that they had already opened the champagne, she lost it. She shot me a nasty look as if I had asked them to start without her. She got furious with my parents, in front of everyone, for not waiting for her. My parents were embarrassed but handled the situation with humor and jokes, saying they couldn't wait any longer. It wasn't pleasant, but we all let it go. During dinner, my parents and my in-laws were entertained, talking to my oldest son. He's like a star, talking non-stop about his daycare friends and even about girls. You know how kids are these days. She got upset because everyone was fascinated by Dan, and no one was paying attention to her. She tried all her tricks to get attention, talking endlessly about her latest trip, not realizing that no one was interested in hearing that she had breakfast in her luxurious suite. When everyone's attention quickly returned to Dan, she got frustrated and commented, "All these smiles and giggles will disappear when the truth about your big head is revealed." It was supposed to be a whisper to her husband's ear, but it was loud enough for all of us to hear. She got what she wanted. Attention. Kenny asked her what she meant, and she smiled mischievously and said, "Sorry, I said that out loud. It doesn't matter." I was intrigued and asked her to explain what truth she was referring to. She winked at me and said, "You know about Dan." Everyone asked what was going on with him. She pretended not to want to say, but, under everyone's insistence, she let it slip. "Dan's paternity is an open secret." I was hinting. She laughed and said, "His black hair is funny. I mean, neither you nor Kenny have black hair, but he does, your ex-boyfriend." I lost control and responded, "You don't know how genes work. My dad has black hair, and many of Kenny's family members do too. That doesn't mean he isn't our son." She shrugged, enjoying the chaos she had triggered, and said, "Relax, it's just a joke. You don't need to be so defensive." Then she whispered, "If you're so sure, do a paternity test, and we'll know who the father is." Everyone was horrified while she smiled, satisfied with herself. I stood up from the table and said, "I don't need to prove anything to anyone. He's our son, and we both know it." My parents and others tried to intervene, but we couldn't hold it back. She was insinuating that I had been unfaithful to my husband and that my son wasn't his, and I couldn't let that slide. I said, "Apologize or I will ruin you." My mother scolded Mia and asked her to apologize immediately. Instead of apologizing, she said, "I was just kidding, don't be a baby." I responded, furious, that she had crossed the line and that she would regret it. I left the table, furious. My parents tried to calm me down, but I couldn't contain my anger. I grabbed my kids, who were already asleep, and went to the car. Kenny followed me, and we left. The drive home was silent. I don't know why, but I didn't have the courage to ask him if he trusted me. At that moment, I desperately needed his support, but he didn't say anything. We got home, and Kenny went straight to bed. I couldn't sleep at all that night. Neither of us mentioned the elephant in the room. The next day, I couldn't hold back anymore, so I confronted him at night. I asked if he trusted me, and he said, "Yes, no doubt." At first, he tried to stay calm, insisting that he trusted me, but I could see in his eyes that the doubt Mia had planted was growing like a weed. After a long pause, he admitted that Mia's actions had left him confused. He said my reaction had made him think because if it was all nonsense, I shouldn't have gotten so defensive. I don't know how I could have stayed calm when she was saying something like that in front of everyone. What hurts the most is that Kenny, as wise as Mia, is still falling into her trap. More than her, my husband is the one hurting me. Mia has always been like this. I don't know why she feels I'm my parents' golden child when the truth is they raised us both with the same love. Everything I have in life is because I earned it. Luck has nothing to do with being the favorite daughter. She says she feels ignored, and everyone wonders how she can think that way. She doesn't care about the effort I've made in my life to get where I am. Not that it's the best life in the world, but I have a family, a good job, and that kind of thing. She could have that too, but she focuses on feeling like a victim. Mia's narrative was simple. I got everything, and she got nothing. It all started when my husband Kenny and I got engaged. Actually, Kenny and I have known each other since childhood because our parents were close friends. Naturally, we started dating, and everyone was very happy about it. And that happiness grew even more when we got engaged. But not everyone was happy. Mia wasn't, and she made sure to show it. Her behavior was so disruptive that I had to ask if she had feelings for Kenny. She said no, that she hated the fact that everyone was obsessed with me and Kenny, and that she felt like a secondary character in the family, in my marriage. She got so drunk and caused such a scene that they had to escort her out of the venue and lock her in a room to sleep it off. The jealousy inside her turned every little joy in my life into something she had to overshadow. She couldn't stand the idea that I was happy. She wanted someone like Kenny, who makes good money and is attractive. Ironically, she found a man who is much better looking than Kenny, but he's a fool who doesn't talk to anyone properly. They've been trying to have a baby for a long time but haven't had any luck. I understand that these things are hard, and sometimes it hurts to see others happy, but that's not my fault. I didn't do anything about it, and I never interfere with those sensitive matters. She's the one who constantly mentions that she has a terrible destiny and all that. I reminded Kenny how Mia has always been a troublemaker, and that this was just a bad attempt to get attention. He admitted that she seeks attention but also couldn't stop remembering the times when I used to hang out with my ex. As I said, Kenny and I have known each other for a long time, and there were many times he saw me with my ex. But I never dated two men at the same time. I started dating Kenny long after I broke up with my ex. My ex and I ended things amicably when he accepted a job overseas. We kept in touch as friends for a while, before losing contact. Much later, I started dating Kenny. I never talked to or met my ex after I got engaged to Kenny. He said he trusted me, but he couldn't stop thinking about how good things were with my ex and how happy we were. The more I tried to reassure him, the more paranoid he became. Every little fight we had somehow came back to that comment Mia made. Finally, he dropped the bomb. Why don't we do a paternity test and end this once and for all? I was furious and responded, "You want me to validate a lie just to calm your insecurities?" I can't tell you how angry I was. I exploded at him, saying I wasn't going to take a test and let that witch win. This led to a nasty argument between us. Since then, we've had many discussions. The worst part is that our children are being affected. The other day, my mother-in-law called me. Dan answered the phone. She asked where we were, and he said, "Mom and Dad locked themselves in the bedroom and are fighting." My heart broke when I heard that. My mother-in-law spoke to Kenny and asked him to be supportive and not to be swayed by unfounded rumors, but I don't know what happened to him. He's insisting we do this test. My in-laws are very supportive and don't want our marriage to fall apart. The problem is, no matter what everyone says, Kenny still holds a grudge about everything. He says, "You don't have to tell everyone we did the test. We can keep it private and preserve your pride." I started losing patience with this whole test thing and started thinking about doing it because it's affecting my children. What do you think? I came back to tell everything that happened recently. I held out for a while, but the tension was suffocating, and I couldn't take it anymore. I swallowed my pride and reluctantly agreed to take the paternity test, hoping everything would get resolved. The results came in, and no surprise, Dan's DNA matched Kenny's. I also did a test with my daughter so there would be no doubts, and the result was similar. When I told my mom about the test, she said she had confessed that she had deliberately created chaos because she was tired of everyone being obsessed with us. She felt like we were making unnecessary fuss about being a happy family. I couldn't let the fact go that she nearly destroyed my home with her unfounded accusations. When I told Mia I would ruin her, I wasn't joking. I began investigating her life. She had 2 Facebook accounts. One she created back in school days and another she made recently when she started dating her husband. I was added to both. She was active on the new account, where she claimed to have a perfect life, but I suspected she might be doing something through her old account. I created several fake accounts on Facebook with details that were not remotely related to me or anyone in the family. I also created fake accounts on Instagram and TikTok to follow her. Eventually, she accepted the friend request from one of my fake accounts, and I started following her closely. I joined all the groups she was part of, and that's when I struck gold. She was actively promoting infidelity and sharing tips on how to cheat without getting caught. She commented things like, "Marriage is a trap, always have a plan B, girls." It was so satisfying to discover the truth. The woman who reveled in the destruction of my life was living in a glass house while throwing stones at me. Mia was an active member of a group where people posted about their marital issues due to infidelity. I posted a fake problem, pretending that I was attracting my husband and asking for advice on how to cover it up. She commented with various tricks and tips on how to live a secret life. I communicated with her through direct messages, diving deeper into my hypothetical issues. She even used her own experience as an example to explain how easy it was to deceive husbands. I reviewed the group's history and found a man who had cheated on his girlfriend and asked for advice a few months ago. Since then, Mia had been actively interacting with him in the group. I took as many screenshots as I could. I was afraid of being kicked out if they realized it was a fake account. Once I gathered enough evidence, I thought about destroying her bubble. Just then, I learned she was pregnant. I know she had been trying to have a baby for a long time, and now that she was finally expecting, I was torn between ruining her life or not. I showed Kenny all the evidence I had gathered. He agreed that we should inform her husband. However, after the pregnancy news, he became uncertain and said maybe we shouldn't ruin her marriage for the sake of the baby. He believes we don't have concrete evidence that she is cheating, so it could just be that she was flirting or using that group as an outlet for her unhappy life. Now, I'm in a dilemma. I'm sure the evidence I have is enough for her husband to consider doing a paternity test on the baby. Even if the baby is his, it would create tension between them, just like it did in our case. So, now I wonder, do I really need to stoop so low to get revenge? I can assure you that I've been reading everything. Although I don't usually reply to every comment, I always read them. I know it's been a while, but everything has happened so quickly that I didn't want to give daily updates. So, I let time pass. After thinking a lot, I decided to take a break. I thought maybe it wasn't the right time to act, and that motherhood might make her more humble. Otherwise, I imagined I'd have plenty of opportunities to get revenge. As I said, kindness is not in her DNA, and she provoked me sooner than I expected. As her pregnancy progressed, she started speaking badly about being pregnant and being a mother, even in an online group. In one post, she commented that she accidentally got pregnant by her husband and now had to deal with the problem, even saying she'd like to get rid of it. It seemed so suspicious that I couldn't hold back anymore and decided to expose her. After our fight on her birthday and her confession that she intentionally ruined my marriage, my parents reduced contact with her. But when the pregnancy announcement was made, they resumed contact. Mia asked them to organize a baby shower for her, just like they did for me. My mom organized it and even invited me. I thought this would be the best opportunity to reveal the truth about her. If she didn't think twice before humiliating me publicly, why should I? On the day of the baby shower, Mia behaved like a loving, expectant mother, excitedly talking about how she was looking forward to the baby's arrival, but I knew the truth. After the party, when most of the guests had already left, I casually dropped the bomb. "So, Mia, are you going to do a paternity test on the baby?" She laughed and replied, "I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get revenge on me. Our marriage is not as fragile as yours." I retorted, "Really? But you don't seem so happy being married, or pregnant, at least not in the groups where you seem to share cheating tips." Then I pulled out my phone and showed her husband everything Mia had been saying in those groups. She turned pale and started insulting me, accusing him of spying on her. I said, "I warned you that I would ruin you." "Well, that's exactly what I'm doing now." Mia launched insults, but her husband interrupted. Stop deflecting the issue. Would you mind explaining all of this to me? She stuttered, saying she didn't want to say any of those things and pretended that she only acted that way to be more accepted in the group, claiming it was just a group of girls making jokes. She suggested he check her phone, but he didn't need to. He was already suspicious. He asked for her phone, but Mia flatly refused. Instead of resolving things with her husband, who was already very upset, she focused on insulting me. I said, "Let's be fair. You made me do a paternity test over an unfounded accusation. Now it's your turn. What's the problem? If you weren't unfaithful and the baby is your husband's." She refused, insisting that she didn't need to prove anything, but her refusal only made her husband more determined. The argument between them escalated. My mom pulled me aside and asked if this was really necessary, if I couldn't be the more mature person and let the past go. I replied, "No, I can't let her keep walking all over me. She will reap what she has sown." Ken and I left shortly after. I don't even need to say that my relationship with my mom became bitter, and we cut contact for a while after that day. Later, other family members informed me of the consequences. I learned that Mia's husband refused to back down until she took the paternity test. His argument was, "If your sister could do it, why can't you?" Mia, however, refused outright to take the test. The fight got so bad that her husband moved out, leaving her alone in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy. My parents were devastated and begged him to reconcile with Mia, at least until the baby was born, but he didn't give in. They even pressured Mia to take the test and settle the matter, but she preferred divorce over doing the test. Desperate, my parents took her in because they couldn't leave her alone in that condition. That's when my mom realized something was wrong. She overheard Mia giving details about the pregnancy to someone on the phone and also complaining about her husband. At first, my mom thought it was a friend, but she realized it was a man when Mia said things like, "I hope the baby looks like me, and if I divorce, you'll have to help me." My mom called me and said maybe I was right to expose her. I would leave Mia on her own once the baby was born. My parents are elderly and can't help her care for a baby, especially when she's not even making an effort to clarify the situation. When the baby was finally born, Mia's husband went to the hospital and once again demanded a paternity test, but she still refused. He left the hospital and didn't return. While she was in the hospital, my parents gave Mia an ultimatum. Either she took the test and proved the baby was her husband's, or she would have to fend for herself and live independently. Even so, Mia refused to take the test. Finally, her husband asked for a divorce and sent the papers. My parents were devastated to realize that Mia's toxic behavior didn't just extend to me but to every aspect of her life. As the days passed, while my parents pressured her to take the test or find another place to live, Mia confessed. So, my parents were able to piece together her lies and discovered that Mia had been seeing another man for months. He was the real father of the baby, but he had no interest in taking responsibility. Mia had been trying to keep this a secret, hoping her husband would raise the child as his own since he desperately wanted to be a father. She admitted to me that she had intentionally avoided getting pregnant for all those years and pretended she couldn't conceive. She ended up accidentally getting pregnant by her lover, with whom she seemed to take less care than with her own husband. But don't think she finally took responsibility for what she did. On the contrary, she blamed me for everything. Mia told my mom that if I hadn't interfered, her husband would never have left. My mom slapped her and said a woman shouldn't lie to a man about the paternity of a baby. The truth came out, and there was no going back. Mia's husband refused to forgive her, something she still hoped for because he wanted so badly to be a father. However, he wanted to be the father of his own child, not another man's. Additionally, he didn't want to be with a woman who had been unfaithful. The other man didn't want anything to do with Mia. As for him, it was just an affair, a pastime. Now, she will have to face the consequences of her choices and raise the baby alone. Unable to do anything about it, she vented her anger on me, sending a barrage of messages accusing me of ruining her life and vowing revenge. I blocked her. I don't care what's happening with her now. That's her problem. If you can't handle the heat, it's better not to cook in the kitchen. As for those who keep commenting that I should have divorced my husband for pressuring me to take the test, let me clarify one thing. I'm not going to divorce him, at least not for that reason. I think he was right, considering his perspective. He saw how happy I was with my ex and knew how amicable our separation was. Anyone would have felt insecure. He never crossed any boundaries, and neither did I. So, I won't let this argument ruin my beautiful marriage. I know many people find it interesting for me to share the consequences of my sister's jealousy. I've been asked so many times that I've lost count. It seems many are interested in divorce proceedings, though that's not the topic I'm most passionate about. But my sister's divorce has already been finalized, and many interesting things came out of it. First of all, a paternity test was requested for the baby. Although there was always the possibility that her ex-husband was the father, the result clearly ruled that out. So, her ex-husband freed himself from her, both from raising a child that isn't his and from paying child support or alimony, as well as from the division of assets. Regarding the latter, my sister ended up with very little in the divorce. Many of the assets were her ex-husband's before marriage, so she only got half of the few marital assets they shared. Neither the house, nor the car, nor her ex-husband's savings before the marriage. At least she received enough to move out of my parents' house. Mia allows my parents to see their grandson because she needs all the help she can get, and although my parents are no longer in a position to raise a baby at their age, they can help for a few hours while spending time with their new grandson. Luckily, Mia hasn't discovered my fake account, the one that allowed me to uncover all the information in the groups. But at least she's no longer participating in them. Now that she no longer has a husband paying for her things and needs to work, she doesn't have time to be carefree. She's probably run out of advice for cheating because the ones she had weren't very helpful. I don't imagine she'll go back to the group to tell them her husband divorced her. That wouldn't be well received, judging by what I've read there. She's probably been kicked out. Although now she has to work to support herself and the baby, I know she has requested child support from the father. This man also took a paternity test, and the result was positive. I don't know this man, but I don't need to know him to understand what kind of man he is. Cheating with a married woman is pretty bad, so paying child support seems like a good punishment, even if he has to do it for my sister, who deserves nothing. The baby they had deserves it. It's not the child's fault that their parents were unfaithful. The child didn't ask to be born. So that's it. My sister will certainly find another man in the future, and it's possible that she will cheat again. She hasn't learned anything from all of this and still complains to my mom about me, but my mom told her to stop crying or she'll be without free babysitting.